Are you ready, player one, for this digital battle? How are you going to influence the fighters and the challengers? What are you going to do to get fired up?
Hey guys, and welcome to Tantrum House Studio Awesome. I'm Sarah Meadows.
And I'm Katie Pills, and we are going to be taking a look at Fired Up by Drawlab Entertainment.
It's a 2 to 4 player action selection game, and it takes about 45 to 90 minutes to play.
We have our hands on a prototype copy, so we're going to take a look at the gameplay now. To set the game, place the board and the wager board next to it on the table.
Select 4 to 5 fighters to battle in the arena, and set each mini to point to their fighter on the left.
Set a marker on the highest level of each stat: stamina, attack, defense, influence, and morale.
Mark the fighter initiative in order using their starting speed.
Give each player their influence dice, 2 social tokens, and betting cards.
Deal 4 highlight cards to each player, and then you're ready to begin.
Players first select 2 highlight cards to use for that round.
On their turn, players roll their influence dice. They may use as many dice as they wish to influence one fighter's stats, like adjusting their targeting or boosting morale. Then the influence marker is reduced by 1.
Play continues around the table with each player rolling and using at least one of their die.
Once all dice have been used, a morale check happens before the fight. The morale marker is moved in the direction of their influence, and their attack and defense may decrease if morale is low.
Then, the fights begin with the battle phase. In initiative order, battles occur between 2 fighters. The attack and defense die are compared to see if any damage or wounds are dealt. In some cases, a counterattack might happen.
Players decide when to cash in on their highlight cards with multiple rows of conditions that offer more rewards as it goes down.
Players can also spend their charged social tokens on making bets in the game by allocating a card to the betting board. After 4 rounds, or when all but one fighter is eliminated, the game ends and the player with the most points wins. So at the end of the 4th round, or if only one fighter is standing, the game will end, and then the player with the most points will win.
So this game kind of reminds me of Ready Player One, except for instead of being that fighter in the battle, you are just a spectator watching the battle happen, and you get to use your influence to change up those fighters' stats. Kind of think of it like an arena, and the cheering of the crowd can influence players. So that's what's happening in this game. You will use your influence dice to influence those players' morale, and hopefully add some extra stats
and
to
that makes
their...
a huge difference.
Oh,
the morale
yeah.
is a game changer for
yes,
sure.
Yes, it is.
Something that is really interesting as well is the each of the fighters have their own unique ability, which makes them better or worse for doing certain different kind of tactics. Like some are harder to kill, some do double damage, some have great counterattacks, that type of thing. So that's a really interesting part. Something that I also did not take into account as much as I should is the betting part of it. So you can get a lot of points if you are fairly accurate with how you bet. Also, betting early is a big deal because if you can figure out who's going to be knocked out first, who's going to be the last man standing, that type of thing. If you can accurately predict that, you can get a lot of points. Will did not put down the correct card in our playthrough video, and he missed out on some of those points. He still won. That's a little bit of a spoiler for you. But if you want to check out that video, you can see how that one played out. But then there's the the dice that have all these different symbols. They have attacks for your head, your hands, your torso, your feet. Those all do special things. There's attacks that are can't be negated in any way. They're just special attacks. And the counterattacking is actually pretty cool. It doesn't happen very often, so it's really fun when it does happen. Especially to see the attacker walking away with more injuries than the defender. So that's really fun as well.
Something that does keep the game moving along and changes up your strategy a little bit is sometimes those fighters will get eliminated from the games. So if it happens and you weren't expecting it, it can throw off what you might have been planning. And so you may need to rethink how you're using your influence dice the next round.
For sure.
Those dice, even if you don't do well, something that helps mitigate that is the social tokens. You can use one to place bets, but you can also save that one and use a second one and use them both at once, and then you can trade those in. You can use a die and change it to whatever you want, and you can influence a second fighter on your turn instead of just being able to influence one.
Yeah, so those social tokens really come in handy, especially when you're in a bind. Like when we were playing and Will and Sarah were totally against me and everything I was doing, they were like, oh no, I'm going to try to undo that. And I'm like, no, guys. Anyway, but if Fired Up sounds like it will be something that you're interested in, check it out on Kickstarter soon. To cheer on the components.
Cheer on those minis.
Okay, go people, go! We have a prototype copy, so let's take a look. Oops.
Oh, yeah, that's why I always start recording after it.
I don't know your ways. How's that?
That was good.
Work with it.